This is notes on 4.7, completing a square. You need this worksheet before you do these notes, so make sure you get this worksheet from me. This is an optional assignment, so only those students interested in learning something a little bit on the more difficult side have to do this, these notes and these problems. Okay, so here's my first problem. So the worksheet that you have is probably blank where it says step 1. So just write down that equation. And this worksheet basically is going to take you through the directions step by step on what you have to do to solve this by completing the square. So here in this first block, it says look at your equation. Are the x squares and the x's on the same side of the equation and the constants on the other? Okay, so here we've got my x squared term, my x, that's on the left-hand side of the equation. Here's my constant term. Okay, so we want that on the other side of the equation, so the constant on the other. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 150 to put that constant on the other side. So here it's a flow chart, so if it was yes, you would go down over here to step 2. If it is no, over here in this block, we are going to write our new equation with x squared and x on one side and the constant on the other. So I've got, after I subtract 150, I've got 3x squared minus 36x equals negative 150. So that's step 1, okay? And then my arrow goes over here to the left. Okay, so step 2, determine A. All right, so A is 3. That's the same as we've been doing pretty much all year long, okay? All right, is it positive 1? Is A a positive 1? No, it is not a positive 1. So I'm going to follow the flow chart for no, okay? So if it's no, then I have to divide the entire equation by A, all right? So I'm going to go back here, divide each term by A. So I've got x squared minus 12x equals negative 50. Okay, so I'm following my arrow. So over here to step 3. Rewrite your equation, but add a blank space to each side. So I'm taking the equation over here, x squared minus 12x, and I'm going to add a blank space here. Equals negative 50 plus a blank space. Okay? And underneath that, determine b. That's the coefficient of the x term. You already know what b is. So b in this case is negative 12. All right, so then I'm going to go down. And I'm going to put my b into this formula. So my b is negative 12. Okay? And then I am going to simplify this. So negative 12 divided by 2 gives me negative 6. And negative 6 squared is 36. And I'm following my arrows up here to step 5. So add the final number, that's from the box over here in the previous step. Add the final number in the box to both blanks. So here we have the blanks. So I've got x squared minus 12x, and then in the blank I'm putting plus 36. All right, equals negative 50 plus 36. All right, step 6. Okay, this is what's called a perfect square trinomial. Okay, and so that's a special trinomial that's very easy to factor. Okay, there's a formula to factor that. You don't have to do any of the other methods we learned in the previous section to factor it. Here's how you factor it. You open up your parentheses, you take the square root of the first term, so the square root of x squared is x. the sign of the middle term, so this is a negative, and then the square root of the last term, square root of 36 is 6, close parentheses squared. So you could also do that by easy AC, you'd get the same thing, but this is always going to be that easy. Anytime we set up our equation like this, it's going to factor using that very simple formula. Okay, negative 50 plus 36 is negative 14. All right, then we go down, square root both sides. So if I take the square root, okay, on the left-hand side of the equation, the square root undoes the square. So I have x minus 6 equals positive and negative, square root of negative 14. All right, I'm going to put that in simplest form. Okay, I can take an I out of this. And then step 8 is solve for x. So we've got to get x all by itself. We're going to add 6. And then that's going to be my final answer over here. So I'm going to have x equals 6 plus and minus I square root of 14.